Welcome to the new podcast, In the Garden with Susan. I'm your host, Susan Ladner. I will aim to bring you top quality information on how to save open pollinated seeds, grow a garden, and preserve what you grow. Every Wednesday, I'll be sharing practical tips and techniques to help you on your journey to food security. Join me as I preserve the abundance of produce that my garden provides. Learn new ways of putting food away for the winter and some old ways that are from another century. You can find this podcast on Shopify and at my website. Come on, let's go wander down to the garden and awaken the dreams, history, and love that is held inside every seed. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of In the Garden with Susan. And today is the big kickoff of the Flower Power series. And it's going to be so groovy. I love everything, about the artwork and the energy of the 60s and I am a 60s child. I was born in 1969, but that time era was back to the landers. And so that, there was a big group movement then to go back to the land and grow your own food and live naturally. And so I think we're in another time period where, that's not only something, it's not only important, but it's going to become a necessity. And food security, it's a huge topic. I mean, every time you go into the grocery store, I don't know about you guys, but every time I go in, it's shocking. That's all I can say, shocking. Like there's some things I used to buy all the time. I remember like a carton, 1 liter of organic orange juice when, $4 for a liter of organic orange juice. Now it's $10. So we really, it's time that we start planting more of our food, saving some of those seeds. And it is a time, getting back to the land. So in this series this summer, we're going to be looking at all the edible flowers. And, there's a lot. I have to say, when this idea came to me, it just came to me, and I was like, oh yeah, edible flowers. Like I'm so interested in that. Like I eat a little, like I'll throw some calendula sometimes and I'll do the dandelion flowers, nasturtium flowers. Yeah, sometimes maybe they'd hit the salad bowl. But I really wasn't incorporating a lot of edible flowers in. I'm sure maybe there's more that I've eaten before, but I really, as I started researching them, there's a lot. And so we're going to spend the next few weeks and we're going to start looking at them all. And it's going to be quite interesting, I think. Well, I find this interesting. I hope you guys do. Anyway, so we're going to start with nasturtiums. And when I started looking all these flowers up, there's a lot to talk about these plants. Like some of these plants are all edible and there's a lot of different things you can do with them. And I started sort of wanting to talk about that, but then I'm going to focus only on the edible, only on the flowers, the edible flowers. And so I just want everyone to know, like some of these things some of these plants I'm going to be talking about. There are more, some of them do have more that you can eat. And maybe in the future, I'll get into some of that. But for this series, the flower power, it's just about the flowers, man. So we're going to start with nasturtiums. And nasturtium flowers are known for their vibrant colors and peppery taste. And so they're actually a very popular choice in the kitchen. And so you can add them to flowers and you can put the whole or torn nasturtium flowers into salads for a splash of color. And the peppery flavor is very similar to arugula or radish. And then you can use these flowers as garnishes. And so they're very perfect for adding to a plate as they add both visual appeal and a zesty taste to dishes like soups, meats, and egg dishes. And you can also stuff nasturtiums. And I don't know, like, if you people have a lot of time for that sort of thing. I mean, they're not big flowers. I can't imagine spending all that time stuffing them. But you know what? Maybe I maybe will try stuffing a few this summer. So the flowers, you can stuff it with a soft cheese mixture or a blend of herbs and cream cheese for a delightful appetizer. So maybe I might make like a cashew, some sort of a cashew cream cheese. That would be delicious, right? And then you can infuse them into vinegar. And so you steep nasturtium flowers into vinegar, and it creates a beautifully colored and flavor infused vinegar that can be used in dressings and marinades. And then you can freeze them for decorative ice cubes, which would be an eye-catching addition to beverages. And as cake decorations, you can use fresh nasturtium flowers to decorate cakes and desserts, providing an edible and attractive topping. And then if you're making cocktails or mocktails, you can incorporate nasturtium flowers into them as an ingredient in syrups or simply as an edible decoration. And so then I sort of wanted, this is something very interesting. I wanted to know about, do different varieties taste different? Because this year in the garden, I am growing a cherry rose jewel, and so that's the nasturtium of the year. And I have it, in all I've got it in the different gardens and it's all over the place. And so, yes, different nasturtium flowers have different flavors. And they all generally share a peppery flavor that, that can be, it's also could be like watercress, but the intensity of the flavor can differ based on the variety and the conditions in which the plant was grown. And so the variety Empress of India, it has deep red flowers and is known for having a particularly robust peppery flavor. And then there's the Alaska series. And these nasturtium flowers are known for their foliage and come in colors ranging from yellow to orange to red. And the flowers tend to have a milder peppery taste compared to the Empress of India. So if you don't like really pepper, that pepper flavor, that's the series you'd want. You'd want to go with the Alaska series. And then there's the Whirlybird series. And this variety boasts a more upright growth and produces flowers in a spectrum of colors. Their taste is moderately peppery and they are excellent for garnishing and salads. And then there's the Tip Top mix, and this variety is known for its compact growth and abundance of flowers in various colors. And the flowers have a gentle, peppery flavor, less intense than some of the more vividly colored varieties. So that might be something that you'll be able to, when you're looking at your nasturtiums, you'll know that if it's a really dark color flower, it's more peppery, and the lighter color flowers are milder. And then there's the peach melba. And this is a unique variety with a somewhat milder flavor and stunning yellow flowers. And it has an orange-red throat. And so it has a subtle peppery flavor. And the soil and weather conditions and care can also influence the flavor of the flowers. And so stress from drought or poor soil will often intensify the peppery quality. So that's something very interesting. I never even thought about something like that. And I wanted to know a little bit about when's the best time to plant nasturtiums. I mean, I already have mine outgrowing in the garden. I started mine a while ago. But in cooler climates, like up here in Canada, it's best to plant nasturtium seeds directly in the garden after the last frost when the soil has warmed up, and this typically falls in the late spring. So if anybody wants to go and get some nasturtiums and get them in the garden, you still have time. I mean, I don't know about where you guys are, how the weather is, but it is here in BC, it is cold and rainy. And so, yeah, I mean, for some of the early spring, varieties of plants that I got in a little bit late, they're loving this weather. And so nasturtiums will germinate quickly and grow rapidly, and they will flower about 6 to 8 weeks after planting. And they prefer full sun, but they can tolerate partial shade. And this will be beneficial in when it gets very hot, because it will prevent them from wilting. And so I wanted to know, like, when I started reading about all these different varieties, I was like, wow, like I would like to maybe taste some of these different, have a taste test, right? Like, oh, I've got these two varieties. And so I thought, can I go out and get another variety of nasturtiums and get them in the garden? Because right now I have the cherry rose spreads, so they're everywhere. And so I wanted to know about cross pollination, and nasturtiums will cross pollinate, and particularly if different varieties are planted close together and they are predominantly pollinated by bees, which can easily transfer pollen from one flower to another. And it won't affect the flowers in the current growing season, but it can affect the seeds produced by those flowers. So if you save seeds from plants that have been cross-pollinated, the next generation of plants may exhibit characteristics from both parent plants, potentially leading to new flower colors or patterns. And so if you want to preserve the purity of the specific nasturtium variety, consider spacing them out or planting different varieties in separate areas of your garden. And, that said, many people like the surprise of new varieties that come from natural cross pollination, as they think it adds to their garden's diversity and interest. And so preserving nasturtium flowers allows you to enjoy their vibrant colors and peppery flavor throughout the year. And this is something every flower that we talk about, because they don't last very long. And, when we're really busy, the season, suddenly the flowers can be gone. And so I I want to know, how can I preserve these nasturtium flowers for the winter when I maybe have more time to work with them? And so you can dry them, and you just hang bunches of nasturtium flowers upside down in a warm, dry, and dark place with good air circulation. And once they're fully dry, you store them in an airtight container. And I had a hard time wrapping my head around how you would do that, because for some reason, I, you know, how are you, because they're so small. Like, those are just, small flowers. How are you hanging them? I don't have a lot of time as it is, and what I'm going to be spending all this time hanging these little flowers. And so I have an image, and I'm going to put it in, it'll be on my Facebook and on my Instagram if anyone wants to see an image of what that would look like, just to sort of grasp that concept. Because when I saw the image, I was like, oh, that doesn't look so hard. And then you can also do oven drying, and you arrange the nasturtium flowers on a baking sheet and place them in an oven set to the lowest possible temperature. Leave the door open slightly to allow moisture to escape, and check frequently until the flowers are completely dry. And so I'm pretty sure you can also dehydrate them. You can put them in your dehydrator, and that might work, for people that want to keep things, not cooked. And so freezing them, when you freeze them, it retains the color and some of the texture. And so you can place whole nasturtium flowers on a tray lined with parchment paper, freeze them until solid, and then transfer to an airtight container or freezer bags. Like, I never even thought about doing that. And then also you can put them in ice cubes, and I think we all know that. So, you just put the nasturtium flowers into ice cube trays, fill it with water, freeze, and these can be used in drinks to add a splash of color and a subtle flavor. And now you can also make nasturtium vinegar. And this is a great way to capture the flavor of the nasturtium. And so you take a sterilized jar and just fill it with fresh nasturtium flowers, then cover with white wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar. Seal the jar and let it sit in a cool, dark place for a few weeks. Strain out the flowers and use the vinegar in dressings, marinades, or any other recipe where you'd like some peppery flavor. And then you can also candy the nasturtium flowers. And these make beautiful and edible decorations. And so, how you do this is you'll brush each flower lightly with a beaten egg white, used pasteurized egg whites for safety. I don't know, you know. And I think maybe for the vegans, you could use the aquafaba or the garbanzo bean water, the liquid that the garbanzo beans come from after cooking, and that might work. And then sprinkle them with a super fine sugar, and that sounds more appealing to me. I don't know, putting eggs on flowers. Oh, that just does not sound very appetizing. So then after you put um, this mixture on brushed on your flour lightly, you sprinkle it with superfine sugar and then lay them on a wire rack in a warm, dry place until they harden and dry completely, and store the candied flowers in an airtight container between layers of parchment paper. And so these preservation methods allow you to extend the usefulness of nasturtium flowers beyond their growing season. And so very amazing, eh? And so this year I only have cherry rose jewel because I don't want to cross pollinate them. I want to keep them pure. And yeah. So next we have pansies. And I sort of they're pansies and violas. They're very similar. They're very closely related. So I'm gonna sort of all throw them all together here, because they are so similar. And so there's subtle differences. And violas are often referred to as violets, and they are typically smaller and have a more subtle, delicate appearance compared to pansies. And they generally have a similar shape and can come back year after year if the conditions are right. And pansies are a hybrid type of viola, and they have been bred for larger, more colorful blooms with a wider range of color patterns, and they are typically treated as annuals or biennials in the garden. And both of these flowers are edible, and they share similar culinary uses, and both can be used to add color and a mild floral flavor to dishes. And so let's talk about some of this stuff we're not really interested in, but they are something about the pansies is they're one of the few flowers that can survive a frost and brief periods of snow. And so that's something, I think that's a great flower to have, as we go deeper into the grand solar minimum. And you want some flowers in the spring they'll be very hardy. And so also something is very interesting. The color of pansies can change in response to changes in the temperature. And so how will we eat these guys? Well, we can, the pansy flowers have a very mild, slightly sweet, grassy flavor. And so this makes them ideal for both savory and sweet dishes. You can put them in salads and you can toss them in whole or torn pieces. And they're both for great. They're they're both really great for fruit salads or for green salads. And they add some color and a hint of flavor. And you can use them to decorate cakes, cupcakes, and other desserts. And they can be candied with egg white and sugar to create a beautiful edible garnish. You can float pansy flowers in fancy punches or cocktails for an elegant touch, or freeze them into ice cubes for a decorative effect in drinks. And they can be used for appetizers to add color and as a topping to deviled eggs or on top of cream cheese spread on crackers. And that sounds interesting. And now, how are we going to preserve these guys? So you can air dry them, and all you have to do is tie their stems together and hang them out upside down in a warm, dry, dark place. And this method works well for whole flowers, and once they're dry, they can be used however you'd like. And again, I have a hard time with this because I don't really think that they're on these long stems. And time, I'm always thinking about time, like how long is this going to take to do, right? And so that just doesn't seem like it's going to work, not for me. But something else you can do, because I was like, no, I don't, I'm not doing that. How else can we dry them? So you can also press them. And I'm sure everybody's done this. We've done a lot of this because sometimes you just have these beautiful pansies. It's like, look at this. And so you save them, and you can just you press them, and they're great for pressing because they're so flat. And so just place the flowers between parchment paper or in a flower press and leave them under weight for several weeks. And pressed pansies will retain much of their color and can be used on, for your decorative um, cakes, anything like that. And also you can put them in your salads, any way you want to use them at that point. And you can also freeze them. This is a very popular method to do this. And you can put them in ice cubes, just cover them with water and freeze. And also candying. And so candied pansies are not only preserved, but also turn into sweet treats. And you just brush the flowers lightly with beaten egg white, spread a super fine layer of sugar, and let them dry on a wire rack in a warm place until hard. And candied pansies can be stored in an airtight container and used to decorate cakes, desserts as an elegant addition to a dessert plate. And you can make pansy sugar. And so you infuse granulated sugar with the essence of pansies by layering fresh flowers and sugar in a jar, then sealing it and storing it for a few weeks. And the sugar absorbs the fragrance and the slight flavor of the flowers, which can then be used in baking or to sweeten teas. And that's something I would like to do. And so now we're going to move on to lavender. And lavender, it's a floral, slightly perfumed taste, and it's used in sweets and teas. And so this is a flower that is not only celebrated for its fragrance and beauty, but it's also very versatile in culinary uses. And so the flowers of lavender add a distinctive floral and slightly sweet flavor to many dishes, particularly sweets and baked goods. And so the different culinary uses of flowers, you can use them for teas and infusions. And lavender is commonly used to make a soothing, aromatic tea. It can also be infused into syrups for use in beverages, desserts, and cocktails. And it is used in baking. Lavender flowers are a popular addition to cookies, scones, and bread, and it imparts a delicate floral flavor that pairs well with other sweet flavors like vanilla or lemon. And it can be used in desserts such as custards, ice creams, and sorbets. It's particularly good in combination with honey in desserts. And you can be put into savory dishes, although this is less common, and it pairs well with herbs like thyme, rosemary, and sage, and it can be used in rubs for meats or sprinkled into stews. I don't know about that. I don't think I want lavender in my stew. But anyway, maybe some people do. I'm sure it's a delicacy. And so you can put lavender into herb mixes, and it's a component of the French herb blend Herbes de Provence, which is used in various savory dishes. And that I did not know. I have that herb. I don't use it a lot, but that's interesting. Um, and then lavender can go into chocolate. I have never even heard of that. So lavender can be infused into a chocolate ganache or used in making truffles for a unique twist on sweet treats. And then it can be used as a decorative edible garnish. And fresh or dried lavender flowers can be used as a decorative or edible garnish on salads, desserts, and drinks. And so to preserve them, you can either dry the flowers or freeze them. And drying is the most common method for preserving lavender. And you cut the stems with the flowers and tie them in a bundle, hang them upside down in a dry, dark place with good air circulation. And once they're dry, gently strip the flowers off the stems and store them in an airtight container away from light and moisture. And dried lavender has a more concentrated flavor than fresh, so use it sparingly to avoid overpowering your dishes. And then for freezing lavender, the fresh lavender flowers they'll maintain more of their original color and flavor compared to drying. And you simply spread the clean flowers on a baking sheet, freeze them until solid, and then transfer them to an airtight container or freezer bag and use frozen flowers directly in your recipes without thawing. And so, interesting. Um, and I wanted to go back and I wanted to talk a little bit about um, uh, the nutritional value. So the nasturtiums, we're just backtracking here a little bit. And nasturtiums are rich in vitamins, especially vitamin C, which makes them excellent for boosting the immune system. And they have natural antibiotic properties. And historically, they were used to treat various ailments, including the colds and flu. And you'll have to excuse me. I'm just going to run out for a moment. I think the goats are up here. Hi everyone, I'm back. I just sorry, I leave my bloopers right in. I don't edit my stuff, so you know, my shows contain the bloopers. Okay. Um, I'm gonna skip back. I'm just gonna get on to we're almost out of time here. And so I really want to talk about one last thing really quickly because this is the time for it and it's in our gardens, and so we're seeing it, and we really will want to use it while it's here instead of just letting it go to seed and saving the seeds from it. Like, let's take some of the flowers while the flowers are available because I think they're a bit of a delicacy, and that's the chives. And so chive flowers, they're very beautiful. I love looking at them, and they have a delicate purple color, and they're entirely edible, and they offer a mild onion flavor, and it adds a unique touch to various dishes. And so how we can eat them is you can add them to salads, and you can add them whole or separated to your salad for a burst of onion flavor and a splash of purple. You can sprinkle chive flowers over scrambled eggs, omelets, or frittatas for added flavor and color. You can put them into soups and sauces as a garnish, and this will add an onion-like subtle flavor and a very decorative touch. And you can put them into butters and cream cheeses, and so it'll make it a flavorful spread, and it'll be very beautiful on your bread, baguettes, and crackers. And you can also infuse vinegar with chive flowers to create beautifully colored and flavored vinegar, perfect for salad dressings and marinades. And so I'm interested how to preserve them. And so you can dry them. You just hang them upside down in a warm, dry place, or by laying them out on a paper towel. And once they're dried, they can be crumbled and stored in an airtight container. You can also freeze them, and this method will preserve their flavor and appearance. And you simply place the flowers in an airtight container or bag and freeze. And they can be used directly from the freezer. And you can also infuse the chive flowers into oils, and also vinegars, as a great way to capture their flavor for long-term use. And so, that's something that we have at our disposal right now. Those of us that are growing chives, they'll be out there. And then for the chive vinegar flower, or chive flower vinegar, all you need are chive flowers, white wine vinegar, or apple cider vinegar. And you just want to gently rinse your chive flowers to remove any dirt or insects and let them dry completely. And then fill a clean jar with the flowers and then cover them completely with the vinegar. And the vinegar should be slightly warmed to help start the infusion process. And then you seal the jar tightly and store it in a cool, dark place for about 2 to 3 weeks. And that will have the flavors infuse. And you'll want to shake the jar occasionally, and after the infusion period, strain the vinegar through a fine mesh sieve and cheesecloth to remove all flour remnants. And then you just bottle it up into a clean, sterilized bottle and seal and label. And then you can use it in dressings, marinades, or any recipe calling for a hint of onion flavor and mild acidity. And then you can, for the chive flower oil, you just need a light neutral oil, such as olive oil. Don't use canola. I'm sure, this isn't the time for me to talk about this, but let's just say that's an industrial oil and it's not meant to be consumed or to go into a human body. Anyway, we'll just leave that there. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to prepare the flowers. So just make sure your chive flowers are clean and completely dry. And then you'll place them into a jar, cover them with the oil, and the oil should cover the flowers completely, to prevent mold. And then you're going to want to seal the jar and let it sit in a cool, dark place for about 1 to 2 weeks. Strain them out, and for a clearer oil, you can strain them a second time through the cheesecloth. So the first time you'll want to put them through a fine mesh sieve. I can't say that word today. I'm not sure why. And then for a clearer oil, strain them a second time through the cheesecloth. And so you want to store the infused oil into sterilized bottles and seal and store in a cool, dark place. And this can be used as the oil in dressings or for cooking and drizzling over dishes for added flavor. And so we're going to leave it there. I think that, we really have not even, got very far into all the edible flowers, but we'll be back next week and we will look at some more. And I hope everyone's having a wonderful time in their gardens and that things are starting to grow. And I will see you in the garden. Thank you for joining me for this episode of In the Garden with Susan. I hope you're enjoying as we take a tour of all the edible flowers and how to use them and how to preserve them for winter. You can find this episode and others at Spotify, Radio Public, Podchaser. It's at Headliner, on my Rumble channel, and it's at the Garden Fairy Botanicals YouTube channel. And as always, you can find it on my website at www.gardenfairybotanicals.ca. I look forward to talking with you next week when we will continue to check out all the edible flowers, and I will see you in the garden.